Hi, Fast Eddie from Killer Crate, back from the 602 Crate Nationals in sunny Florida to the shitty weather here in the Northeast. Well, as I stated before, in 602 Crate Racing, there is no set of killer cylinder heads. There's no magic camshaft, and there's no crank that your wife can look at and apply her makeup to. It's a 1 horsepower plus 1 horsepower equal 2 type of thing. Now, a lot of them ones going to get you a kiss from the trophy queen, or if you're lucky, you'll even get a visit from your local track pit lizard. Well, let's get on with today's topic, which is 602 crate rocker arms, 1.5 to 1 ratio. Jesus, I'm telling you right now, Bob, the trolls are going to come out of the woodwork on this one. Okay, now, remember guys, we're comparing differences in rockers here alone. We can't control things such as actual net cam lift, lifter bore positioning, rocker stud placement, oil viscosity, lifters, preload, deflection, on and on. Some of that shit you can't control. What I'm saying is that a higher ratio will give you more favorable results in a 602 than a lower one. Okay, let's start with the basics here. Now, where do we get that 1.5 to 1 ratio from? Well, let's take a look here. We're going to take a measurement from the center of the rocker to the center of the valve contact point. We're going to divide it by this distance from the center of the rocker to the center of the pushrod area. So if the rocker has a ratio of 1.5 to 1, if the pushrod end moves up 10 thousandths, the rocker tip is going to move down 15 thousandths. If the pushrod end moves up 100 thousandths, the rocker tip, well, that better move down 150. Got it? Okay, something I want you to notice is that there's an arc here on this tip right here. Well, okay, well, let's see if we can take a measurement here. Look, guys, it takes a lot smarter asshole than me to get them measurements right. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the end results. Well, it starts by making this fancy tool here that we took some measurements and we slapped the tool together. And look at, I positioned a dial indicator on the pushrod side to measure the lift of the pushrod on one end. And on the other, I preloaded a dial indicator to measure the downward movement of the valve. Okay, so now I got a new rocker here set up in the tester, and I'm going to add 5 thousandths preload and zero them out. Okay, there's your 5. We're going to go 0. Let's see if that's let's move that just a shade. Okay, now let's go to 10 thousandths lift. Would that come out? That only come up 11. Okay, now I plot these things every 10 thousandths a lift, but for the sake of this video, we're going to go to write full GM theoretical net cam lift of 290 thousandths, 0.290. And I use that term theoretically loosely because any cam that has a plus or a minus in lift, angularity, and duration spec, well, that's subject to a video in itself. Okay, let's go to full lift here. That's 290 thousandths. Okay, there's 100 thousandths. There's 200 thousandths. Now let's go to 90. That's 290 coming up. Okay, where'd that come? What that is, that went around 4 times. So that's 4, 10, 20. That's 421. Hey, guys, that's only like a ratio of like 1.46 to 1. Okay, now let's put a different rocker on the tester. Okay, now look at guys, anytime you're comparing one component versus another, the consistency in which you measure things, that's key. So we're going to use the same depth of the adjustment nut, and we're going to use the same preload. Let's get up there so we can get some preload. Okay, now we're going to go 5. We're going to zero everything out. Okay, now let's go to 10. Okay, there's 11, 11 and a half. Well, we gained a little bit there. Now let's go to full lift. 1, 200 thousandths, and 90. Whoa, look at that right there. That's 410, 20, 35, 36. Jesus, Jose must have left a tortilla chip underneath that one. Look at. So what's all this stuff mean? Well, for one thing, all rockers aren't equal. On some you'll get more lift and area under the curve than others. You'll get more spring pressure at full lift. Remember, GM rates their engines at a maximum of 5,500 RPM. We're spinning them at 6 or higher, so I'm going to take that extra 3 pounds of spring pressure at 10 thousandths lift difference at max lift. Jesus, that was a mouthful. But anyway, here's 2 rockers over here that I plotted. Now, just take a look at this one. Remember, at 290 thousandths lift, okay, that should theoretically give you 435. That's at 1.5 advertised. Now, here's what this one got. This one topped off at a 0.438. That's a ratio of 1.5 to 1. Now let's take it this other one at 290. Whoa, that one there, only 0.425. Guys, that's only a ratio of like 1.47. So there are differences here. There's something that I see that is a little bit interesting is, look at that 110 to 120 range. That's 10 thousandths difference in push rod and lift. Okay, now let's go over here. Remember, I told you guys that 10 would get you 15, right? Well, let's look at, there's 10. Now 15 plus 150, that's 170. So between that point and that point, yeah, it was a 1.5 to 1 ratio, but that ain't what the valve is saying. The valve is seeing only like this 1.4 to ratio. Okay, so how does this really work? Well, what we're seeing is this. The rocker arm tip, that's moving at an arc. Now remember that I showed you that the tip is in itself an arc. So look at the rocker is moving on an arc around its pivot point, but the valve, that's moving in an up and downward motion. What that means is that the distance from the pivot point to the contact path across the valve tip, well, that's always changing across this travel. Typically what I'm saying is ratios that vary from 1.3 to 1.51, and well, that's in the 200 or so rockers that I tested anyway. So, look, as many change in crate racing, one change ain't gonna throw goddamn rooster tails over the top of the grandstands. But like I said, 1 plus 1 equals 2. And you know what? I don't believe all them ones hurt the Killer Crate House Cars performance in the Florida Nationals one little bit. At that, I'd like to say that, hey, does anybody know what the term Sabalt or Centistoke is? Well, stay tuned to the next 1 plus 1 equals 2. You know what? Jesus, Bob, I earned my beer on this one, and let the trolling begin.